Welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Rachel Roller. The future of policing in the U.S. very much a question mark following a series of recent fatal police shootings and encounters. The Justice Department now investigating police department practices in major cities across the country. Joining us now to discuss is Detroit Police Chief James Craig. James, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Rachel.
Now, Chief, first off, I want to talk about that dash cam footage that was just released of Michigan State Rep. Joel Jones, who made history in 2016 by becoming the youngest ever member of the Michigan House at the age of just 21. But what that video is showing, obviously not a good look. He crashed his car into a ditch, allegedly while under the influence, with a blood alcohol content of at least 0.17%, more than twice the legal limit. Also, there was a loaded handgun in the car. There was reports that police had to use pepper spray, and he and the other female in the car had their pants down. Just one big mess. How concerning is this to see leaders behaving this way while we're discussing so many interactions with police?
You know, certainly it's troubling. He's a fine young man, certainly tremendous future as a lawmaker. I'm reluctant to pass judgment, but I can tell you what I saw certainly is concerning. You know, just like with all the conversation over policing in America today and police officers being held accountable, certainly those who sit in seats of leadership, elected leadership, too must be held accountable. And so it appeared there was a reluctance on his part to identify himself with his driver's license. It appears the officers used some restraint. Now, what I'm told or what I'm hearing is some force was used. And I don't think it was excessive based on the video, but that's about all I know. So we just have to let the investigation play out. But certainly a remarkable young man who was elected at a very young age. But like all of us who sit in seats of influence and leadership, there must be accountability.
And you are, when elected into those positions, held to a higher standard. That's kind of just the assumption. Now, let's switch gears a bit. The Justice Department is opening a series of investigations into the police departments in cities across the country, including Minneapolis. Just yesterday, Attorney General Merrick Garland announcing an investigation of the Louisville Police Department in the aftermath of Breonna Taylor and that shooting. What changes do you expect to be made?
Well, let me just say this. My experience is vast. I served in the LAPD when we were under federal oversight. I served as the chief in both Portland, Maine, Cincinnati, and Cincinnati had been under federal oversight. And then when I got rehired here as the chief in Detroit, we were in roughly a 12 to 13 year consent judgment. So two things. I think for the new chief coming in, and if DOJ finds that there is a pattern and practice of excessive force, those issues certainly can be addressed under federal oversight. However, word of caution, how it's managed is key. When I look at Oakland, California, which has right now the longest running federal oversight consent judgment, absolute failure. They've had chief after chief come in and out. They have a monitor there who ironically was the same monitor in Detroit when I arrived. And I told that monitor, I says, it will be my goal to put you out of business here in the city of Detroit. He is still in Oakland. They have not succeeded. And so that's a problem. So how the federal oversight is managed is key.
And do you foresee the George Floyd Policing Act and Justice Act being passed as well?
You know, I got to tell you where I have a real problem. The whole issue of qualified immunity. That is a deal breaker. I think Tim Scott, what he put on the table was appropriate. It was a balancing act. We know how important it is that police officers who engage in criminal misconduct should be held accountable, and that would be the exemption. But when you talk about civil lawsuits, this will decimate policing as we know it. This is a veiled attempt, I think, at dismantling policing, because here's what I know. All the way from my seat down, who is going to want to serve in law enforcement when there's no protection? I've talked to my colleagues in other cities. Look at what's happening in New York right now. The retirements and resignation rates are skyrocketing. So this vocal minority is not speaking for people who live in vulnerable communities. That's what's the problem today with everything that's going on. They're voiceless. that these folks want good, effective constitutional policing. And the vast majority of the men and women who serve each and every day do it right. And a profession shouldn't be painted with a broad brush. But if they remove qualified immunity, there's going to be a mass exodus, and policing will not look like it looks now. They're already trying to take traffic stops away.
Right. No, and it's such an interesting
knee-jerk reactions. So let's don't stop anybody anymore. The mayor of Brooklyn Center says, well, if they must stop someone, let's use police officers who are not armed.
Yeah,
there is no such thing as a routine traffic stop.
And that's what we hear all the time. There is no such thing as a routine traffic stop. And other representatives like Rashida Tlaib calling for no more policing in general, no incarceration. I saw you fired back at that, calling that shameful, disgusting. Chief James Craig, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for now. But we thank you for all you're doing, and we thank you for joining us.
Okay, you have a great one.
You as well.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.